Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. Let's get started. As we know, the college football season is coming down to a close. We just got a few more weeks left for the postseason, and there's a lot of good games on paper this week. A lot of potential upsets if you have a lot of good marquee matchups. So let's get started with my top 10 games of the week and my predictions for each of them. So let's get started with 7 Michigan State versus 4 Ohio State. Now it's interesting because Ohio State hung like 50 plus points on Purdue. And that's after a couple weeks of just kind of being average, against a good Penn State defense and Nebraska defense. So it makes me wonder. It's like, okay, is that just bad Purdue there? Because Purdue usually doesn't do that. They don't usually give it that much, or is that okay? Has Ohio State gotten back to a good offensive rhythm? I don't know. Maybe a little bit of mixture of both. I feel like with Michigan State's running game, they're going to rely obviously on Kenneth Walker, again, who's my Heisman favorite right now. I feel like they can rely on him, eat up clock, time possession, and all that. Now, Michigan State's defense is not great, so Ohio State can definitely hang points on it. Because if Purdue can hang 30 plus on them, and then Ohio State hang 50 plus on Purdue, and then you can do that direct correlation if you want. I'm not going to rely on that per se, because sometimes it doesn't correlate, but I feel like Ohio State should win this game. I feel like it'd be close, and then Ohio State would kind of pull away in that fourth quarter. And then winning 34-23. Next, you got 3 Oregon versus 23 Utah, 7:30 p.m. ABC. So this is a very interesting game here because if you're Oregon, if you lose this game, you're obviously out the playoff picture. And what's interesting is that surprisingly, even though both teams should do a rematch in the Pac-12 championship game, neither have technically locked into the division. Like, for example, if Oregon were to lose this game, they have Oregon State, their rival for their final week, and if they lose that, then Oregon State would represent that division, not Oregon. And then for Utah, if they lose this week and then they lose next week as well, which they shouldn't, but let's say they lose both and Arizona State wins both, then they would represent that division. So technically, I'm allowed to play for still, especially if they do meet in a rematch. It would kind of interesting to see how they play this game. But in the end, I feel like with the home crowd and everything, I feel like that would be an advantage for Utah and the way Utah's offense has been playing. I feel like Utah's finally a team that can upset, Oregon, since Oregon's been kind of close to getting upset in recent weeks. So I have Utah getting upset here 30-24. 3, you got Iowa State versus 13 Oregon, new Fox game. This is a very interesting game. I want to see how Oklahoma bounces back after that bad loss to Baylor. Well, not that Baylor's a bad team. That was just an ugly loss for them. I do feel like Oklahoma at home specifically, I feel like they can bounce back, but because of the way Iowa State plays, they will keep it close and it won't be pretty. But I do have Oklahoma in the end getting the win by 27-20. 4, you got 21 Arkansas versus 2 Alabama. Now, I feel like, again, you could do direct correlation games like, well, Arkansas, got a show with Ole Miss, and Ole Miss, got blown out by Alabama. Or you can say, oh, Arkansas beat A&M, and who beat Bama. So you can look at it different ways. I feel like Arkansas is kind of a run-heavy first team. So as long as Bama just plays good run defense, then I feel like they'll kind of shut down Arkansas. And then Arkansas defense, I don't trust against Bama's offense. So especially in Tuscaloosa. So I have Alabama winning actually pretty comfortably, 38-16. 5, you got Virginia, 6-4 versus 18 Pittsburgh. And for this game, basically the winner of this game will win their division to go to the ACC championship game to play most likely Wake Forest. And it's obviously a important game. So I feel like it depends on who's starting for the quarterback for Virginia. Because Brandon Armstrong, if he's back healthy and is able to start, then I like Virginia here for the upset. But if it's the backup quarterback once again, like we saw against Notre Dame, Pittsburgh will win this game easily. And I feel like it will probably be the backup playing for Virginia, so therefore Pittsburgh wins 30-14, but hopefully I'm wrong. 6, you got UCLA versus USC, one of the big crosstown rivalries there. And this is a very interesting game because USC has kind of been winning this game for the past decade pretty much every time. But this is the one year where it's like USC is just clearly better than USC is. So it's the one chance for UCLA and Chip Kelly to finally get that signature win against a rival. So I feel like this will be a close game like it usually comes down to. But once again, despite being at USC, I have UCLA making it very tough for them. But in the end, I'm just going with the gut feeling here. I got to go USC to get the upset here, even though they're starting a freshman quarterback who's gotten some snaps so far. But anyways, I have USC win this game close, 33-31, to keep their bowl eligibility hopes alive. Because remember, USC's 4-5. Then they got Cal, which that's a game they should technically win, and then they got BYU, which they should lose to. So therefore, their season comes down to this game basically. 7, you got 11 Baylor versus Kansas State. Now at Kansas State, this is very much of a trap game for Baylor. You're coming off an emotional win against Oklahoma. You're keeping yourself in the Big 12 title race, and then there's 73 Kansas State at home. Just lurking there, waiting to kind of eat you up. Like the week before you got upset at TCU. So it's like, how are you going to do again on the road here? I feel like because of Baylor and their running attack, I feel like Kansas State's defense just can't stop that in the end. So while I have Kansas State being competitive for some of the game, I have Baylor end up winning 31-17. 8, you got Arizona State versus Oregon State. Very important game for both teams if they want to get themselves any chance. I know it depends on what Oregon and Utah do, but give themselves any chance of winning their division, going to a Pac-12 title game. Because other than that, there's not much to play for at this point. They're going to go to a bowl game, just no matter what type of bowl is it. Even though it's at Oregon State, and I have a feeling Oregon State's going to win, I'm going to go ahead and take Arizona State here to win barely on the road, 31-27. 9, you got SMU versus 5 Cincinnati. This is very much of a trap game for Cincinnati because they could be looking ahead to now ranked 24 Houston in the AAC title game. But it's SMU, their offense is very good. Now, because SMU's defense sucks, I feel like in the end, Cincinnati would just outscore SMU to a win. But don't be surprised if SMU, with their scoring abilities, can keep this close. I have Cincinnati winning 41-27. And then last but not least, I have 10 Wake Forest versus Clemson. What's interesting is a Clemson 3-point favorite. But anyways, this game, I can see it going either way because I can see Clemson's defense kind of containing Wake Forest offense enough. And we know since Wake Forest defense ain't good, Clemson's offense can maybe finally get something going. Or I can see Wake Forest offense just being too much for even a good Clemson defense. And the fact that it's at Death Valley there in Clemson makes it that much more interesting. I have this being a close game. I'm kind of right down to wire, but with the way the type of season it's gone for Clemson, I have Wake Forest getting the win here, 28-24, to kind of keep the New Year's Six Bowl hopes alive. So that's it for my top 10 games. I got Ohio State beating Michigan State, Utah upsetting Oregon, Oklahoma beating Iowa State, Alabama beating Arkansas, Pittsburgh beating Virginia, USC upsetting UCLA, Baylor beating Kansas State, Arizona State beating Oregon State, Cincinnati beating SMU, and then Wake Forest beating Clemson. And now real quick, I want to go over my 3 Vegas lines I disagree with for this week's college football games. One, I just mentioned. Actually, all 3 of the lines I disagree with are all in my top 10 games, which usually doesn't happen. I usually try to pick a few games that are off the radar, but Baylor Kansas State, the lines, a couple days ago was even. It's really, that's an obvious one. You got to disagree because it's not going to be a tie. But yeah, I think Baylor will win, like I said earlier. And then next, we got 7 Michigan State before Ohio State. Ohio State's favored by 19 this game. I feel like I said, Ohio State won, but I don't feel like they'll be by that much. I feel like kind of like when Ohio State was favored 19 or 20 against Penn State. I feel like that was just kind of too much points there. So I'm taking Michigan State there points. And then for Wake Forest, Clemson. Obviously, Clemson 3.5-point favorite. As you know, since I'm taking Wake Forest, I'm taking Wake Forest outright, if not at least the points there to upset Clemson. So now, real quick, I want to go over some NBA updates real quick. It's been kind of interesting to see how the NBA season has been shaking out so far. I do want to talk about real quick what things that I'm seeing so far. It's okay, that might actually stick. That might be legit for the rest of the season. Or what things are okay, now let's not overreact here. Everything's kind of fine. Just a bad start, that's all. So, for example, Brooklyn, I feel like in the end, I know they've been struggling off and on, but I feel like they'll be fine. Chicago, I feel like I feel like this is going to legit. I feel like this will last for the rest of the season. Now, postseason, I'm still going to hold off on that because they're still youth and experience and all that. I'm still going to hold off on that. But as far as regular season goes, they're legit to be a top 3 team. Miami, obviously, I feel like they're going to continue to be legit. Now, with Jimmy Butler being out, how long is he out for? That's going to be a deciding factor there. But Jimmy Butler can get back soon, and they'll be a top 3 team. Washington, I'm not buying as a top three team by the end of the regular season, but I am buying them to make the playoffs. And at the best case scenario, they can get that 4 seed and host a first round of the playoffs. I definitely like what I see from them. Again, I don't trust in the playoffs for one iota, but regular season wise, I'm buying it to a degree. Knicks, I buy them as a playoff team. I originally had them in the play-in tournament, but I feel like they might actually be able to avoid the play-in tournament, like they did last year, and they might be able to. Now they're not going to host a playoff game for the first round this time, like it was last year, but I do feel like they can be in that 5 to 6 range. Milwaukee, this is not a big concern. Brook Lopez is out. Chris Middleton's finally coming back for his COVID issues. Drew Holiday was out for while he was trying to get back and think of things. But then also, when you lose PJ Tucker, a defensive guru, and then Brian Forbes, an elite 3-point shooter, and replace them with Grayson Allen and George Hill, it's like, is that really a good substitution there? It's like, so far it hasn't worked out that way. So, therefore, they're not the same teams they were once again. But when it comes to playoff time, they can show they're a top 2, 3 caliber team in the East. Philly, that they've been having COVID issues, so I feel like they'll improve as the season goes on, with or without Ben Simmons. But in the end, I feel like there are limitations there. So I do feel so if they are in the play-in tournament because of this, it wouldn't surprise me. But I feel like they're definitely not going to be a top 4 team this year in the East. Atlanta, now again, they had a bad first half of the season last year and then a good second half, so the same thing can totally happen once again. And I feel like it will to a degree. But since a lot of people, the Hawks were kind of just a fun, young surprise team last year, and now everyone's on alert for them, and they kept everyone, so now they can kind of study them even better because there's not a bunch of changes they have to worry about. I feel like that may cost Atlanta. Could they avoid the play-in tournament? Sure, wouldn't surprise me because that's what I originally predicted. But as of right now, it looks like they're maybe on track to have to play in the play-in tournament. Charlotte and Toronto, those are 2 teams that should be in the play-in tournament when it's all said and done. They can definitely make some noise. Now, if either they make the playoffs, I'm not going to buy them in the playoffs, but definitely interesting watch. And then Boston and Indiana, I'm not buying them as playoff contenders right now. I feel like that will so they're bad start now. I feel like will continue throughout the season. And honestly, don't care about the Cleveland, Orlando, Detroit. Now for the West, it's just super hard to predict. Like I can see Phoenix being seeds 1 through 3, Golden State being seeds 1 through 3 at this point. Utah could still be 1 through 3. Now Dallas, I have them more as a 3 to 6 range. Denver, because of the injuries, more 3 to 6 range. And then the Lakers, I feel like they can overcome this bad start. I feel like they'll be in a situation where they barely miss the play-in tournament. So they're kind of more of a 5 or 6 seed. A dangerous 5 or 6 seed, but more a 5 or 6 seed at this point, the way they're playing. It'll be interesting how they look when LeBron comes back from his injury. Clippers, I still have them kind of in the play-in tournament kind of category, but if obviously Kawhi comes back healthy, then that changes things. Or even if they go to the playoff tournament and Kawhi's still playing good, then that's a bad matchup for whoever has to face in the first round. And then obviously Memphis, Portland are bound for the 8-9 range. Again, I can see either one making the playoffs, but being an early exit. And then Sacramento and Minnesota are kind of vying for the last play-in tournament spot, in my opinion, which I feel like Sacramento will get. And then, of course, no one cares about the rest of the teams. So that's kind of how the season's shaking up. So basically, you could buy Chicago for the regular season. You could buy Washington for the regular season, just not as much as Chicago. I mean, you could buy Philly as not a top 4 team, in my opinion, right now, or even Atlanta. You can buy, Phoenix, Golden State as a top 3 team, in my opinion. So just stuff like that is kind of more definite as of right now. It'll be interesting to see if that plays out correctly or not. But thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel, join about me. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.